While you people are settling down during the lunch, let me announce the next speaker, which is online from US. Ms. Moazuma Zahid is speaking about the revolutionary conversational AI on ChatGPT for businesses. She is the principal manager at Microsoft and heading the data and AI and machine learning advisor at US. Ms. Moazuma Zahid.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me. My name is Moazama Zahid, and I'm going to talk about revolutionizing conversational AI, the power of ChatGPT for business leaders. Before I go into the topic, I would like to quickly introduce myself. I am currently a principal PM manager at Microsoft. I work in the Azure Databases team. I've been in the data industry for over 15 years. One of my machine learning models is used in EKG machines around the world to detect heart attacks. And I'm really passionate about education. You'll see me active in many different community efforts. And please feel free to connect with me after this if you have any questions that I can answer. So in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to talk about what is ChatGPT, what are the different benefits and use cases, how businesses are currently using ChatGPT and the potential of ChatGPT. In addition to that, I'm going to briefly mention about the Azure OpenAI service, and I will leave you with some thought ideas and different things that you can do from your organization perspective and as a business leader to improve your business and organization processes as well. So let's get started. What is conversational AI? This is a question that I get a lot, and a lot of folks understand it from a perspective of what you give to an input as an input to a model and then get a response. So I'm going to oversimplify it. Think of conversational AI as a type of artificial intelligence that allows machines to interact with humans as humans interact with other humans. So we have conversations, we interact with other humans through speech, through text, and some other ways as well. So conversational AI is a breakthrough in terms of using large-scale models. And these large-scale models could be natural language processing models or some other models that can be used to take input, which is human-like, and answer the humans in the same way as well. Conversational AI has become increasingly important for businesses as it offers more natural way and engaging way for customers and also different brands that customers have. What is ChatGPT? ChatGPT is a language model developed by OpenAI, which is a company based out of Silicon Valley. It uses deep learning to generate human-like responses and to a natural language input. So for example, you can ask about ChatGPT, please tell me a story about a kid in a forest on a particular topic, and it will write you the whole story. ChatGPT is actually based on a type of network architecture called neural network architecture, and it's known as transformer. If you don't know about transformers, I would highly encourage to read up on that and understand a little bit more about what is this. How does ChatGPT work? So ChatGPT is trained on a massive amount of data. I really like this diagram on the right-hand side of this slide, and you can see how it was trained. So it was trained on large scale of data that is available already on the internet. And then you as a user can use a prompt, which is called prompt engineering. So you have to really know what you want to get out of it. And you have to direct it in a way that ChatGPT understands your instructions and can provide you the answer. It also has some safety measures to make sure the response that is generated by the model is safe for the end user and it's not biased on a few other things. This is oversimplified definition of how ChatGPT works, but there's a lot of learning material that you can do and learn more about this field. ChatGPT is also available in Microsoft Azure as an Azure OpenAI service. ChatGPT is one of the models, and there are a couple of other models as well that are available, such as DALL-E and Codex. So I would like to give you some examples of how you can use them. For example, the GPT-3 model, you can ask the GPT-3 model to provide you a tagline of a bookstore. If you put that prompt in, this is the response that you will get. At least this is the one I got, which is find your next adventure on our steps. I really like this one. There are other big, large-scale models as well that are available in the Azure OpenAI service, for example, Codex. So you can ask a particular coding problem or question with proper context. So in this case, I'm providing a table and asking it to write SQL query for that. And that's the response, which is pretty accurate. Last but not least, the generative AI space is also expanding every single day. So DALL-E is one of the models that is available by OpenAI, and that is also available in the Azure OpenAI service. So you can ask for a prompt. For example, in this case, I asked a polar bear in a poster modern art style. And this is the response I got, and I'm really happy with this response. So thinking about this very simple example from a business user perspective or a business leader, what are some of the things that you can start using it from your business perspective? It also, ChatGPT in general offers several advantages, not just from a conversational AI and as a breakthrough. You can think about responses from these and think about any downstream process in your business that you can optimize. For example, most of the business are thinking about the customer service. Most of the business have customer services systems that you have somebody who's actually answering those. You might already have some kind of chatbot. Why don't you think about bringing that chatbot integration to ChatGPT? Some of the other advantages of ChatGPT or use cases that I've seen so far is marketing and sales. Some of the repetitive work, how do you find leads? How do you send emails to folks? Some of the possible customers, some of those areas can be generated as well. And it can also recommend certain products based on the customer use cases if you provide it with the right set of prompt as well. Last but not least, from a cultural perspective in your own organizations, you can start thinking about how you can train your employees to be the next artificial intelligence machine learning engineers. So you can actually ask ChatGPT to create these trainings for you, and then you can actually utilize those trainings to upskill your employees as well. There are many other use cases. Of course, if you go on the internet, everybody is talking about ChatGPT and these large-scale models. Every other day, I come across many new use cases. As a business leader, I would start with the most common repetitive tasks that you have in your organization and start thinking about how you can actually improve them. Apart from all the advantages, of course, there are some challenges and limitations. So as a leader in your organization, as somebody who's looking into this, it is kind of our responsibility to make sure that we make the right choices for your organization. Some of the limitations include, of course, the data on which it is trained is the data that's already available on the internet. So you have to make sure the safety and the transparency of that. The second most important thing is the bias and ethical consideration. So there are certain responses that folks have found already are either not appropriate or does not abide by certain laws that you have. So it would be important for you to understand those and make sure that you have the right safeguard on top of the responses or anything that you build on top of this as well. OpenAI has actually introduced the API, so you can actually start using it as part of any of your business processes today, as long as you understand the limitations of the current model. Now, in terms of a leader in these organizations, what are some of the things that you can do? Leadership at the age of AI is really interesting as well, because I truly believe in the next few years, every product in some shape or form will be using artificial intelligence and these large-scale models. And some of them would be known to the customer, some of them might not be known to the customer that these are being used on the back end. So as a leader in an organization, I would say start thinking about what are the common use cases that you can optimize by using these models. What is the cost of it, how you can think about the future and grow your business based on these models, and then also effectively communicate these use cases to the main stakeholders in your company and outside of your company in some cases as well. I would leave you with some of the top points from this talk, talking about ChatGPT. ChatGPT is the cutting edge conversational AI model. If you're not already using it, start thinking about what this is. Start thinking about what it means for your business. Understand the challenges and limitations as well, because with any technology, of course, there are also some challenges and limitations. And I will leave you with a couple of resources if you want to try ChatGPT or Dolly, or if you want to get started with the Azure OpenAI service. There is a very good learning module that you can go to. With that, thank you so much for joining me. This is my connection information. If you want to reach out and ask any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you for having me and have a great day.
Thank you, Muazzama. That's really a great feature that Microsoft adopted the ChatGPT features in MS Office, Outlook, Express, and others. So the next speaker is again in the same domain from Raza. Raza is the world largest open source conversational AI platform, and they are working on large language models. So Ms. Lauren Goers is talking about the future of conversation through the large language models.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for listening in today. My name is Lauren Gertz, and I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Raza. And I'm very excited to be joining you all for the 4th Pakistan Artificial Intelligence Conference. And today, the topic of our conversation is the future of conversation, conversational AI, and large language models. So if you haven't heard of Raza before, Raza is one of the most used conversational AI platforms on the market. Our open source project alone has been downloaded over 25 million times. And we're a global company, and our mission is to empower the world's largest brands to interpret and act on their customers' and employees' needs with our open and extensible AI platform. Within Raza, as a product marketing manager, I kind of like to think of my job a little bit as a sort of kind of conversational AI hype woman. So I've really have a passion for language technologies, and prior to Raza, I worked in conversational AI implementation for about 5 years, and I've personally witnessed how AI assistants can bring about rapid digital transformation and improve the customer experience at customer service centers. And I truly believe that the business applications of AI assistants and language technology at large really have so much upside in the next couple of years, especially when powered by large language models. So in a session today, especially in light of the recently renewed conversations surrounding the generative AI and large language model topic, I want to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about how we at Raza believe this new technology will help bring about the future of conversation. So first, a quick disclaimer. I'm aware that the slide is a little bit oversimplified for those that are experts in this space in the room, but I do think this helps. What I wanted to do is share a little bit how I frame the generative AI industry in kind of a business context that helps you understand how it overlaps with conversational AI. So generative AI, if we're talking vocabulary, is really the umbrella term that describes any type of artificial AI, artificial intelligence that can be used to create new text, images, video, audio code, etc. And within this large umbrella of generative AI, there's kind of different categories that can be split out into on the basis of how it's applied. So the one that's of course most important for conversation is text processing. So a type of large language model fits under this bucket. And then, of course, image processing, diffusion models, you might have heard about as well. It's another type of kind of image processing model. And lastly, it would be remiss if I didn't mention it, multimodal models, especially with the recent introduction of GPT-4. This would be a model that can handle a combination of different modalities, so text, audio, images, etc. And I think, of course, like I mentioned earlier, in the near future, large language models are, of course, the most relevant for us in the conversational AI space. And before I go any further, what I'm going to be talking about today is how we at Raza have used large language models to create an intentless dialogue model. And for those that are not familiar with conversational AI, you might wonder, okay, what is intentless? Why should I be making intense optional or getting rid of intense? So I want to do a quick overview of what exactly intents are in this concept of conversational AI, because they're both super powerful. We love intents, but they're also something that can be limiting in the space of in the space of new technology. So one of the things that you should know about intents is the concept that conversational AI practitioners use to give us a structure that helps us simplify language understanding. And they're super common in almost any single conversational AI platform. You will see intents as a sort of key primitive that conversational AI practitioners are using. And what intents do is, the idea of natural language understanding implies that a person, or hopefully also a machine, can hear a new combination of words and understand it without having ever heard that sentence before. And I think here's such an example of a sentence that maybe you all have never heard of before. Iceland's president admits he went too far with the threat to ban pineapple pizza. And nonetheless, even though none of us have heard the sentence before this moment, maybe, you can still understand it. You can even imagine a backstory to it. And so this is really the problem that natural language understanding systems, conversational AI platforms like Rasa have been trying to solve with Intents. And that is the idea of, instead of trying to identify all the infinite number of things that a person might say to a conversational AI agent, let's solve a simpler problem. Let's invent some buckets and reduce the problem of language understanding by sorting user messages into the matching bucket. So usually as a conversational AI practitioner, I'll make a couple of intents. I might make a greeting intent and throw in a whole bunch of different examples of greetings. Hello, how are you? What's up? Goodbye intent. I would have a couple different examples of farewells. So see you later. I'm on my way out. Bye for now. Something like that, and so on and so on. And these functional buckets, kind of our intents, provide the system with examples of things that people might say. And you can classify the new incoming user inputs that the system has never seen before and kind of categorize them into buckets that allows you to guide the conversation. And that's really kind of the AI piece that's been sitting behind a lot of these conversational AI assistants, for the last 10 years or so. And at Rasa, that's something that we've been trying to challenge, because while we love intents, we recognize they're also limited. They're not able to understand context in the way that new technology can. And so in 2019, we released the provocative blog post, "It's about time we get rid of intents." And again, the title was meant to be provocative. We don't actually want to completely get rid of them, but just make them optional. And again, in 2020, we're a step closer to getting rid of intents. If you want to learn about some of the progress that Rasa's been making in this space to kind of advance technology in terms of how we classify and understand human language, definitely have a look at our blog. Lots of good information there. And now we've reached this point today in 2023 where we think, we're a whole lot closer to, that point where we can actually understand human language without necessarily always having these kind of intent buckets classifying. And that's really when you talk to Alan, our CTO and co-founder, he would say that using, large language models to power an intent-based boss is really like driving a Ferrari on a 10-mile-per-hour road. So using an engine as large as a large language model to then power, a natural language understanding system that's really not that advanced it's a big miss. We're missing the opportunity there. And so that's why at Rasa, when we look at all of the different use cases that one could possibly use large language models for in the context of conversational AI, we're kind of seeing two different trends. We're seeing LLM enhanced capabilities that can be categorized into the bucket of practitioner productivity, which can be described as use cases that make the internal development of AI assistants faster and easier. And the other bucket is smarter assistants. And this includes the type of use case that can actually make your system perform better and improve the user experience. Of course, I'm sure many of you in this room have trialed the different large language models and thought to yourself, wow, this is incredibly fluent. It sounds incredibly human. And that's the piece where I think really, when I think about all of the different things you can do with large language models, that's the piece that really has a lot of impact for conversational AI systems, because that's something with our existing, intent-based models, we haven't really been able to understand things in context. We haven't yet been able to make our conversations sound fluid. And what I want to do next is give you an example of where kind of intent-based dialogue management can sometimes be challenging in the context when we don't have another technology powering behind it. So we've got this example here. I want to add my wife to my credit card. So users ask me to add another person to their bank account. And then we have, the bots responds, lets you know, hey, if you want to do that, come into our local branch and we can do it for you there. And then the person responds, I have a broken leg though. And in an intent-based system, if you have these two utterances, the first one would probably be easily classified by the system, add user to credit card, something like that. But then out of context, the second utterance, I have a broken leg though, sounds almost like a medical request. And so it wouldn't easily be classified in the context of conversational AI system. And this is a moment when your system itself might fail without an intentless dialogue model. And so here we can see where intents let us down and where the opportunity is for large language models to really step in. And so that's why we wanted to introduce in our most recent webinar. I'll link it at the very end of this presentation so you can see a much more in-depth description of what we're doing here at Rasa. In our most recent webinar, we released a new intentless dialogue model within Rasa Pro as a beta feature. And so a lot of our clients are trialing it right now. And how the intentless dialogue model works is it really leverages the power of large language models to understand language and context. So with intentless dialogue management, intents become optional. And you can see in this diagram below, for those that are maybe a little bit more familiar with how conversational AI systems work, with our intentless dialogue model, if your NLU, so your natural language understanding system, if your intent buckets are, if the user utterance is classified with a high enough confidence, then we just carry on with the guardrails that you've already implemented. You know, we check if there's a matching piece of dialogue that can be assigned to that intent. And if all of that is already pre-prepared in your system, we go with that, right? Because no need to hop off the guardrails if you already have content for your user's question that you can provide them with. However, in the case that your NLU does not have a high enough confidence, or it's something that, you know, might benefit from having a little bit more context involved, then what we'll do is the power of large language understanding context. And that is kind of the purpose of the intentless dialogue model. And it's really powerful because in the example that I showed previously, you know, when someone couldn't come into the branch and made a request that might not have been easily classified, with a large language model enhanced dialogue model, you can absolutely be able to handle those types of queries that make more sense in context. So, of course, this beta trial is open to all of our Rasa Pro users. If you are interested in becoming a Rasa Pro customer, definitely reach out to us. Again, you'll see a QR code at the end of this PowerPoint where you can get in touch. And ultimately, the benefits is it sits in that bucket of bringing you a smarter AI assistant, and allowing an LLM to navigate complex contextual situations makes your AI assistants more resilient with less data. And lastly, we've done this in a way that we keep the guardrails on. So ultimately, when you activate the intentless dialogue model, it will never just openly respond directly from a large language model with the response from the large language model. It will instead use the large language model to help it choose the next best step in the dialogue. And that means that it will only give back to the user the responses that you predefined. So that's the intentless dialogue model. I hope that very short taster makes it sound interesting for any of you that are wanting to dive a little bit deeper into conversational AI and try something enhanced by large language models. So thank you so much for having me today. Like I said earlier, the QR code in the slide below is there for you if you want to reach out, get in touch. Very much enjoyed speaking with you today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Bye for now.
Thank you, Lauren. Our next speaker is Mr. Moaz. He's the CTO and co-founder of Idrak AI. It's a big company, and it's a UAE-based company, and the founder is Pakistani people. So Mr. Moaz is talking about the climate change and energy conversation AI for net zero. Mr. Moaz. Slide.
Hello. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I am Moaz bin Saeed, co-founder of Systems, and today I am here to talk about the climate change and AI for net zero. So this topic is very important for me and for Pakistan also, as well as for the whole of the world. So I have to go through how climate change is impacting our world, how it is impacting Pakistan, and similarly, how AI can help to reduce it, mitigate it, and how we can achieve net zero. Similarly, how my company has done some use cases in Pakistan also. And similarly, then I will conclude. Climate change is real and it is impacting a lot to the world and especially Pakistan. We have unfortunately in the last 2-3 years we have faced a lot of crises, floods, and we have lost a lot of lives for that reason. We have looked uncertain locust attacks that were never before like this on this mega scale. So that's why I have to talk about it. Globally, the climate change is since the pre-industrial time, the temperature of global has increased from 1.1 degree centigrade, and this is huge. This is huge, especially for the glaciers. This is huge for the water level rises. Arctic and Antarctic, both regions are melting at tremendous speed. Similarly, and we can see the effect. We can bad effect, and it is affecting our society, our world, and it is very bad for our future generation. And we are still having issues nowadays. By the way, Intergovernment Planet of Climate Change (IPCC) has declared that we have to achieve net zero by the end of 2030 to save the lower countries, and Pakistan is one of those. Pakistan is unfortunately not a huge contributor of climate change, but it is affected the most, one of the most, like it is fifth largest country that is being affected according to World Risk Index, Global Climate Risk Index. And similarly, we can see floods and everything. We are also having agricultural crisis nowadays. Lahore, for example, Lahore is second largest city of Pakistan, but unfortunately, we can see that in winters, its global index air quality is second worst in the world. In all the world, it's second worst. So how AI can change and mitigate all this? We have many use cases. For example, forest monitoring. Brazil is already working on satellite imagery. It is working on sensor data to calculate illegal logging, and it is doing action. It is performing actions to save the climate, to trees, and similarly, it is catching the culprits. We have water management. We know in MENA region. They are already working on water treatment and how they can plan. AI can help them plan better. Like with that sensor and with the data, it is giving the data that how much water will be consumed. So there is less and less consumption of water and less wastage of water. And water crisis, we know it is huge, and after a few times it is going to impact a lot of countries, especially Pakistan. Also, glaciers are melting. About agriculture, again, the wealthier countries are going for agriculture. They are using sensors, they are using AI to optimize how much less chemical is used, how less water is used, how AI can optimize it better, how AI can make it better and better, optimize the crop yield. It is helping farmers to use different weather for different crops instead of one crop, and it is so that's why there is less wastage and there is less carbon global greenhouse effect from the soil. Transportation, it is similarly AI has been using transportation. Singapore has already worked. It has reduced by 10% of transportation in public transport by using AI to optimize the routes and everything. Similarly, government like Singapore and Hong Kong are working on carbon capturing, pricing, and how to optimize the places where they have to implement carbon capturing units, and government can price the carbon emissions accordingly, the power plants and everything. AI has also helped a lot in flood reliefs. For example, the United Nation Development Program has forecasted it before time in Bangladesh, and it has saved a lot of life, precious life, human lives, and as well as resources. It has helped. It has helped the nations to predict using the AI geodata, satellite imagery. Similarly, Pakistan needs to reduce its flood effect by by using AI. AI for energy efficiency and renewable energy. AI is using AI. We have already worked in a lot in energy monitoring. Now, future cities are planned. How we can reduce the energy monitoring? How we can even like building management. Whenever there is like less usage, there is less grid station optimization and everything. Okay, so now there's point of my company, Iraq Systems. We are already working with some of the blue chips client of Pakistan, textile manufacturer, and we are using industrial automation and AI engine to reduce their wastages. And like last year, my company has saved 23 million liters of water and 384 trees in last year alone, using AI optimization and IoT. So that's conclusion from my side. And conclusion is that it's not just one country or just one organization or one company that needs to work on AI for betterment of environment. We have to work together. Government and companies together, they have to invest in R&D, and that's the price we have to pay. Thank you.
Thank you, Moaz. The next, but not last, not least, but it's very important session, which is involving some academia. As we have covered some government, we have covered some of the industry people, and now this panel is covering academic sections. The role of academia to cultivate the Pakistan AI talent. Mr. Saad Rehman, the Vice Chancellor of International Institutes of Science and Arts. I would like to invite Dr. Saad. Please come on the stage and introduce your panelist members.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. First of all, I'm thankful to the management and Total Communication for inviting me. I would just like to invite the panel here, Dr. Simab Latif from NUST. Ma'am, if you can just please come up to the stage. Dr. Farokh Aziz Bhatti from IST, Institute of Space and Technologies. Dr. Fayaz Ali from Khalifa University. I think he's available online. Dr. Suhail Khan, Head of Department of AI from PARC, Austria, Fachhochschule. I think he's online as well. We have a special guest today from UK, that is Professor Dr. Phil Bidge. He is from the University of Sussex, and he is joining us online from UK. Thank you, Dr. Phil, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So let me start with Dr. Seema today. As an expert in language models, what specific capabilities and expertise do you believe are now crucial for students and researchers to possess in order to thrive the rapidly evolving landscape of the AI development following the release of the generative AI models?
Okay, thank you for giving this opportunity. So first of all, I would like to say that with the release of these generative models, so things are moving at a very fast pace. Our students and our youth, they need to catch up with all of these things. So likewise, we have to evolve our academia, our teaching styles to match these capabilities that we are facing or we are seeing these things right now. So I think, first of all, we need to upgrade our curriculum. So these things should be included as part of our curriculum. Our curriculum should be focused less on theory and more on the practical aspects. So it should be hands-on. Secondly, I believe that now it's going to be a multidisciplinary approach. So we need to teach the multidisciplinary projects and theories to the students as well. Secondly, apart from that, we need to make students more like critical thinkers, problem solvers, and solution architects. So going forward, maybe 5 years down the lane, I think it will be less required for the students to do the coding or the designing part. So we need more problem solvers who understand the problem and provide solutions, critical thinkers, and the solution architects. So I think these are the domains we should be working on.
One comment I just would like to make here is that what I've seen with the students is that they are using AI a lot, but they are using already developed functions. So they just don't know the criticality and the basic operations of that function. They're just using it. So that is where I think our students are lacking. What do you say about this?
Yes, as I said, we should focus on theory and the practical aspect both. So yes, theory should cover the basic technology behind it, basic algorithms that are working behind all of these technologies, and then they can start working on that. So it is more like a hand-to-hand approach. So right now, these days, we have more theory and less practical. So we should go on the other side. It should be more practical and less
Right.
theory.
So Dr. Samab, as someone who has both academic and entrepreneur experience in the field of AI, what new opportunities and avenues do you think and see emerging for students and researchers to explore in the field of AI?
Okay, so as we had a lot of discussions in the morning, I think nowadays it is more important to explore the AI domain. And apart from just applying the AI algorithms, we need to work on their transparency as well. So we have very less penetration of AI or very limited penetration of AI in the field of finance, in the field of defense, or in the field of legal domain. It is because of the transparency issues, because right now, all of the AI considered as the black box AI. So we need to open up this box so we can say that now we need to work on the models that are more interpretable, that are more explainable, so that we should know the root cause of a particular decision-making process. Secondly, ethical AI is another thing that we need to teach to our students and we need to work on, because all of the things are happening around us and there is no check and balance on it. So our AI models should be based on fairness, unbiasedness, and again, transparency. So I think these are the two core research areas that our students should work on.
Thank you for the answer. Now I would like to shift to our guest from the UK, Professor Dr. Phil Bage. I'm grateful, Phil, for joining us today and taking time out from your busy schedule. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, so my first question to you is, can you give some examples of artificial intelligence and how the UK universities are using them in the education sector?
Well, I think it's pretty much everywhere, especially in what we call the STEM areas, so science, technology, and maths. So our students are really all at least using it. maybe they're not all developing the next lot of AI, but they are actually using it. And so there's kind of two different levels there. So I'm in the engineering department. So we tend to use it a lot in student projects. So they will have some level of understanding. They'll learn about neural networks and things like that as well in their actual modules. When we come onto projects, so undergraduate, postgraduate, there could be all sorts of things. So it's a very wide area. So I do a lot of computer vision. So I might do things like medical image processing, where the students learn how to train a neural network or an AI system to detect cancers from a X-ray or MRI scan. We have an awful lot of robotics at the moment, and AI comes into that a lot. Things like, well, I mean, again, I'm a computer vision person, so I concentrate on that thing where how the robot is seeing, understanding its environment, it can move around, it can pick things up. It's the same with vehicles as well, which are a much more sort of widely known example. But it also comes into other areas, so maybe agriculture. So we have a lot of students who are interested in doing things like disease detection in crops. So they're learning to use the AI, use these systems, not necessarily completely understand them all, depending on their backgrounds, but they're looking from a more of a life science point of view, so microscopes. And then it's coming into basically every area of engineering, really. So things like power delivery, Internet of Things, we have 5G, 6G communications, swarm robots, a lot of modeling going on in mechanical engineering, things like climate modeling, all use it. So it's pretty much everywhere. It's inescapable these days, especially in the science area.
Okay, so Phil, my second question to you is, how can the university feed AI knowledge into the local industry, keeping the perspective of the UK market and the UK landscape?
Okay, so in the UK, the government is really sort of pushing for universities to spread that knowledge. So they think of us as like this knowledge base where we're trying to almost spread that knowledge into the local, or not just local, but UK-wide industry areas. And I think it's a very good thing for academia, because it's really a two-way process. Because what it allows us to do, it's like a research idea generator for us, because we get to understand what the real problems are in industry. So and then we can solve problems for industry as well. So it may be that we can look at what they're doing and think, actually, I know exactly the technique you need to use. There is an AI system. They don't have the skills in-house to do that, because they'd have to employ a team of specialists to do it. So maybe the universities can then come in and do that and kind of help them with their problems and ultimately make them money. And we have lots of systems of doing that. It could be consultancy works. We also have an array of grants from the government where the industry puts in money as well, and we work with them through that. So I've been involved in a few local companies, especially looking at things like security systems, and we kind of helping them by saying these are the sort of technologies you could use to solve these problems. So they came back saying they were interested in trying to find lost children in a theme park, and can you do it using CCTV? And well, you can do. It's a difficult problem, but it was a kind of an interesting thing to work on. So it's really a two-way process. I think it helps both sides. So it's a useful thing to do.
Okay, so just my last question to you is, can you give any example in which the UK government is pushing universities in this AI domain? Any push from the government side or not?
Push from the government side. Well, the way that the universities will be pushed is by the fact there's funding. So there's a lot of funding going into AI, and that will it's one of the areas that the UK is really interested in developing. So the government is basically supplying more funding, and that's going to attract people into that area. It's going to get people writing grants in that area. Okay, so it's not saying you must do AI, but there is a chunk of money. So if you want to do it, they're going to get their requirements that way.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Phil, very much. Thank you.
Okay.
So now, Dr. Farooq, I'll come towards you. If you can highlight quickly some of the issues and the current AI educational academic research issues, and also if you can suggest some of the remedies.
Okay, so as this point has been discussed earlier also by other speakers, that a lot of the code is now available on GitHub. Publicly available data sets are also there. So what I've seen in my experience is that, for example, in final year projects, almost 50% of the projects, even electrical engineering, they are tackling some machine learning or deep learning problem. But the students, what they're doing is that they're just taking up this code data set and just they pick up pre-trained models, and then they just do some training to achieve reasonable results, and that makes up their final year project. But they really do not have, even a fundamental understanding what's going on inside. So they really treat it as a black box, which I think is a bit alarming, because your final year project is always one of the keystones of your entire degree. And if you do not have deeper understanding, then that's really something that needs to be addressed. So for this, I think, as earlier pointed out, I strongly feel that in all of the engineering disciplines, and especially in electrical engineering, AI and machine learning should now be included. For example, we already teach signals and systems and then signal processing. And I feel that ML and deep learning is just an extension of that. So that's one thing that we can do. The other thing that I've seen is that in postgrad, in MS and PhD research, again, there's been a lot of machine learning work, but most of the projects have been about classification, object detection, semantic segmentation. And we have not seen really much work on generative AI. And Salesforce, for example, has just allocated a $250 million funding, venture funding, for generative AI startups alone. And this has happened just 2-3 weeks ago. So I think now academia needs to keep up, and they need to sort of, shift their focus onto generative AI and similar stuff as well.
Okay, so my last question to you is that I know that you also run your own company. So both of you, mashallah, running your own companies. So being an academic and being on the other side, entrepreneur as well, how would you devise a plan so that we could have more startups in universities and we can just add some value addition to the society?
Yeah, so I think it's a very, very important question. So we are doing a startup incubator, and we are doing cold chain monitoring using IoT, and now also applying some AI to it in cold chain monitoring.
Hello, I cannot hear.
No, I think we've lost the connection.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we all cannot hear from the host. Hello, Dr. Phil. I think should we? How are you? Can you hear the host?
No, but they've just rejoined.
I ask you one question?
Sure.
Yeah, so being in academics, now you are at a managerial position yourself. So what education reforms we should have at our universities at undergraduate level specifically to make our youth more employable?
I would say it's not a straightforward answer to this. This is a multi-dimensional problem which we need to see. First of all, I think that the major issue which we have is that we just don't incorporate the industry in the curricular development. The most important thing. Secondly, we just need to see where the vacuum is, where we just need the developments. Like I just know that .NET, everybody just know .NET. So there is some other technologies as well where companies know. The most of the complaint, the CEOs which meet me say that the student which is graduating does not meet our requirements. So that is the problem. There is a disconnect between the university and the industry. So they say that we have to retrain the students. Everybody has to retrain them for their own. So why not we should have a triangular approach in which HEC, industry and the university sit together, come up with something new so that we know where the vacuum is and we should cover the gap. So we just producing something HR for something which is already abundant in Pakistan will not solve our problems. Okay. So Dr. Fayaz, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so Dr. Fayaz is from Khalifa University, is in UAE. So my first question to you is, in what way we can improve the infrastructure for the development of AI education industry, since we are lacking in obtaining funding from the government support? You are mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me in this summit. As we are discussing about the problems and the current solutions, what we can bring some solution to bring reforms for the AI culture in our country. I think there are so many challenges we need to discuss, including the funding is one of the major issue, because as we know, if we want to deploy any of the projects, we need funding, starting from the undergraduate project to the industrial project. So what we can do for funding issues, we can, like, there are many solutions. Like, we can not only limit it to the government funding, but although we can start some preparing grants where the international grants are open as well as national level grants are open. And also we can do start collaborations with international universities or international industries, through which we can, like, bring some partners and also some institution to leverage the resources and increase the chances of sourcing funding. And also there crowdfunding option as well, where it is a kind of platform which provides academics to raise money for the interesting members to the public, for the public benefits. And also some like philanthropic funding. It is kind of funding when someone is trying to develop society, he can apply for this funding. So there are a lot of like opportunities that one can look for the solutions to raise the funding. But the problem is what well, the funding, with the funding, the problem is that there's, suppose we start from the undergraduate, the students, the project is not useful. Why? Because they try to replicate the things that's already done and just complete the thesis. That now looking to the solution to the funding, we can I would suggest to the academia that they can give the project to the students that can not only benefit to the student, but also the universities, and to raise the funding. Like we can give the project like freelancers are working in this field, in AI field. Like we can give them any projects as a freelancers taking from the freelancers. So they, in this way, they also improve their skills, and also they start learn how to raise the funding. So this kind of suggestion I would like to give to you, that like in academia, if we in undergraduate, if we give the projects kind of freelancing, it will be more useful. So again, there are so many regions of interest to increase the funding. So this is the major things I would suggest to you. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Fiaz, you mentioned about having collaboration with different universities. Every Pakistani university have signed at least 20, 30 MOUs with other universities. None of them is capitalizing on this. So I don't see any future any university having a collaboration with, like, even my university has some, and just try to push everybody. Okay, you should avail that, capitalize on.
Yeah, for this problem, I think maybe there is some competent standards are lacking from any outside. Like if some universities are collaborating, without their interest, they won't go forward. So we need to bring some ideas that can also benefit to them. Say suppose we are working in any field like computer vision or in IoT, we need to look around that what can what this project will help to the both sides. So this is very important. If we only looking for our own self or of our own benefit, then definitely the other party will not give much interest. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, please, now.
Yeah. So my point is that we need to look the benefit from the both sides. If the both parties are getting the benefits, then I don't think there should be any block from any side. So it's at the same time, we need to look the benefit from the other party or other university where we are doing the collaborations. So say suppose if we are meeting the quality of the teams or quality of the in terms of the standards, then definitely the other party can play an active role. So my point is that we need to bring the solutions or bring the ideas that can benefit to the both parties. Then this way can be the active role can be played.
Okay, Dr. Faz, my last question to you is, there is a shortage of skilled professionals in AI, such as data scientists, machine learning engineers, and AI researchers, which can hinder the growth of AI educational institution and industries. How would you just comment on this?
Yeah, this is very major issue right now. We have in our country, especially there are already, as AI is a revolutionary field. It is working around the world in every area. So the point is that the country or the institute which have the more experts, they are getting the more benefits. But unfortunately, I can comment like that we are lacking in this side, because in order to compete with the world and compete with the world projects, with like as you know that we don't have the from Google branch, we don't have any office in our countries. Why? Because we are lacking some experts, top level experts. Like if suppose we keep improving the qualities, and those who have skills, we try to engage them, because if we don't engage them, they will fly to the other countries where they are getting some benefits. So the point is that we need to engage the experts, and also to increase, if we want to increase this pool, we need to increase. First suggestion is that we need to engage the experts, so that they can produce more experts at the university level. And the second point, we need to engage the projects, as I already mentioned, such kind of freelancing projects that can also benefit to the students. In this way, he or she able to earn as well. And it's also gives the motivation. So if we want to increase the pool of experts, we need to look around on these 2 points. Hello.
I think we lost again.
Okay.
So yes, definitely I have my budgetary allocations and towards the pay and other things. So and also into the development rather than I would just invest on this, I would invest in a building so that I could just sorry. We are back. So Dr. Suhail Khan, can you hear me? Are you available? Okay, so about my recommendation at this point is that we should have national pools available for these things where universities can jointly fund and come up with resources for the usage of all the universities. So if there is an initiative from like 10 universities to invest in a data center, okay, yes, the cost is cut. Yes, I am ready to invest then. So this is how we can come up with a strategy so that we can have a national center funded by 10 universities or 15 universities for the and then yes, we can like use them as a round robin. Every university get a chance of the time so that the students can go and just do their experiments. So instead of like replicating resources everywhere, we can pool as a nation now. This is what my so Dr. Suhail Khan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Dr. Suhail, you have done work on, I was just telling the audience that you have done work on the AI policy and you have a great insight into it. So I just kept you at the last so that you can just enlighten us how academia will function and will try to function under the light of that AI policy and just highlight also the important areas that AI policy is covering.
Okay. So first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. And I was very delighted to hear the interesting discussion, especially the points that were discussed, how we can improve our role. So regarding AI policy, first of all, what is a policy? So policy are the directives for the government to actually invest resources in a high risk field. So policy document is actually a kind of blueprint for appropriate ministries, whether it's Ministry of Planning, Ministry of Science and Technology, that they can allocate their funds in next, let's say, next fiscal year, next 3 year, 5 year, or 10 years to develop a certain technology in the country. So first part is the identification of gaps in the society regarding AI adoption. So I will just sum it up. Based on the work that was carried out last year, we identified that there are 4 gaps in the market right now in Pakistan. The first gap is of awareness and adaptation. So this is where academia will have to play a direct role. Second gap is data standardization and data accessibility, right? So somewhere in the government, there needs to be an authority or an appropriate organization that undertakes this responsibility of data standardization, whether it's medical data, whether it's public data records, like for instance, we have identity data, and also need to formulate the rules for its accessibility for different applications within the public organizations and also in the private sector. So this is also a responsibility of government to undertake. The third gap that we identified was the computational infrastructure situation that needs to be improved. So as we know, in most of the modern economies, the governments invest in centralized data centers and computational infrastructure that are basically provided to both the university environments and also outsourced. So similar kind of initiative has to be taken in Pakistan as well. And the fourth challenge that we think is regarding AI adoption, specifically when AI is going to be applied on the public data, is that it should not be used to exploit the ethnic origins of the people, let's say, or based on gender or other ethical issues. So there is also a need of developing ethical framework around the AI adoption. So these were the four gaps that were identified. Now, what is the role of academia in addressing those gaps? So I will start with public awareness and knowledge dissemination. So universities do not need to only focus on graduate level programs, masters in AI, masters in data science, and so on. We have to develop a holistic mechanism in which universities have to undertake such initiatives that teaches the masses using, for instance, MOOCs, online education, and so on. The presidential initiative on AI was an excellent initiative. I think similar kind of initiatives have to be taken at national level so that the whole nation, irrespective of their age, irrespective of the program in which they are enrolled in, can directly, participate and get more awareness about how AI could be used. So this is where the universities have to play. Universities have to play active role in R&D. So of course, just like other esteemed colleagues discussed, that the curriculums needs to be revised, and actually each university should revise it on quarterly basis if we are talking about these topics of AI and data science. Then algorithms, data science, and AI in basic education needs to be improved. So the STEM education program needs to be rolled out as soon as possible so that students across all the public sector, private schools have the knowledge about computation, what it or the related fields, and how they can use it in their career. So these are some foundations on which we have to work, along with the other topics that are being discussed. And last but not the least, we have to also address marginalized communities. Especially, we have to uplift women in the society and develop, and government has been given a blueprint under this policy how skill development programs needs to be rolled out to support marginalized communities, also support women in their skill empowerment so that they can earn, they can learn, they can teach, they can do business, and so on. Okay. Apart from this awareness and readiness that in which universities have to play or education has to play, we also need to develop a progressive and trusted environment in which the public data could be made available to the companies. The companies could be more, can feel closer if they make a lab, a co-lab at the academic institution. So the universities needs to engage in the industries more often, and need to develop joint labs or co-labs so that they start trusting the academic environment and the students start working on the practical applications. Another important area in which most of us usually overlook is the transformation of our existing workforce. So we cannot neglect our existing workforce and only work on the new workforce that are going to undertake in 15 years. We have to reskill our existing workforce in AI, in data science, in cybersecurity, and these things. And without, without transforming our existing workforce, it would be almost impossible that we get a complete replacement of them. So here, national IT boards are, for instance, every province have their own information technology boards. They have to play a very active role now if they want to play their part in AI policy, in transformation of this existing human capital, right? So I think summing it up, if we really want to make a the triple helix partnership, which is industry, academia, and government, and we want to realize it in practice, right, then we have to take practical steps. So these practical steps have to be taken by government on one end, by industry on other end, and by the academia on the third end. So the policy document, I hope that the ministry will roll it out in public, gives us a blueprint on how to realize this vision in very near future, in next 3 years, up to next 10 years. So that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Swail. So at the end, I would just like to thank all my colleagues who joined online. Dr. Philbish from UK, I'm really grateful that you spared time from your busy schedule and just enlightened us with your comments. Dr. Fayaz and Dr. Swail, thank you very much. Dr. Simab and Dr. Farooq, I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Saad, and all the panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, it's being late, but we have, thank you for your patience as well. We have only 2 small sessions, around 10 minutes each, as they are the international speakers. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Simon C., who is the global head at AI Technology Center and AI Nation, NVIDIA Singapore. So he's joining online from Singapore. Its topic is industry metaverse, AI data and high performance simulation. And our next session is by Ms. Chalet. She's the Global Program Director of Stanford Leadership Coach, and she's also the representative of Women in Data Science and Global Representative. So she has some words. So I would like to welcome Ms. Chalet.
Hello.
Hello, yes. Welcome. Yeah, you can continue. We can hear you.
Excellent. Thank you. I'll share my screen. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Debbie Bueta. I'm the Chief Partnership Officer of Women in AI. Women in AI is a non-profit do tank with 10,000 members across 150 countries. And it has 200 volunteers, including 40 ambassadors that are helping our members on the ground, 40 of them face-to-face in their respective countries. And we're really on to close the gender gap in the data analytics and AI field by inspiring and connecting and educating women across the various stages of their careers, from childhood to school, university, first-time jobs, and the progression in their career. So in 2015, I gave out at IT Web in South Africa, and I called it Watson, Please Advise. And it was about how IBM's cognitive technology can be leveraged to buy call centers to really help their call center, help their customers at scale. It was an awful talk because it was my first talk on the big stage with big lights, and there were many speakers there that were much better than me, mostly men, and hundreds of data analytics and AI leaders in the room that probably knew more than me. And my voice was shaking, and but I knew that I was talking about something that will change our world as we know it. And it made me excited and nervous at the same time. IBM's Watson technology was just commercialized in a small scale at that time. And I knew that we were onto something. Little did I know that in less than 8 years, technology like ChatGPT, will be used by millions of users within 2 months of its release. So why is ChatGPT and GPT-4 so quickly and widely adopted? It has 100 million monthly users since its launch in December 22. It is because we trust it. Why do we trust it? Because it does not have glaringly obvious biases. If there were these obvious biases, like the previous attempts at the large language models, then it would not have been so successful. OpenAI is doing something right. They are entrenching and leveraging equitable diversity and inclusion on all levels of their organization and the entire AI lifecycle. Meera Murati is the CTO of OpenAI, and she has been a SVP at OpenAI for 4 years before that. So she had a seat at the table from the design to the strategies of the technology. AI is one of the professions that can either fundamentally benefit society if we do diversity and inclusion correctly, or it can really tremendously hurt society if we don't do it correctly. On the positive side, there's the OpenAI story. And today, more than ever, equitably diversity is important for organizations to be successful. We know that organizations with equitable female representation in the C-suite and boards report 10% better economic performance. And when we say equitable, we do mean 50-50%. Women should not take over the world. There should be 50% women and 50% men. If you skew towards women, more women, obviously another set of biases will start creeping in. So organizations will be incumbent disruptors with a rich historical data that they have, especially about their customers. These organizations create this vision of how they will look and unlock the value of data and AI in the future. And there's brilliant books and publications about it. Randy Bean and Thomas Davenport wrote books and many articles about the practical strategies and examples of AI that can bring great economic benefits to organizations. So now, on the negative side, last year, World Economic Forum, or actually 2 years back, World Economic Forum's article stated that bias in AI is a real concern and it's generating more attention. They said that it will take 132 years to close the gender gap if we don't do something drastically. Now, Gartner predicted that in 2022, 85% of AI projects will deliver erroneous outcomes, owing to bias in the data, the algorithms, and the teams responsible for managing them. So why is it so biased? It's because today, worldwide, not more than 26% of the field of data and analytics and AI are women. We are not encouraging enough women to enter the field. It's because only 10% of worldwide publications in this field are by women. Women are more likely to, and this is based on factual research, women are more likely to take up roles that are more supportive and not driving innovation and change, which is the more pioneering roles that men tend to take on. This 10% of publications is also because when it comes to university attendance in the STEM fields, entering in the bachelor degree is almost 50-50. But then when you go to masters and PhDs, women drop off drastically. There's also research that shows that worldwide, 50% of women in the field leave their careers mid-career. And research has shown that many women see the corporate ladder as a difficult obstacle, while men see it as a welcome challenge. So most men thrive on convincing others that they are ready to be promoted, while women prefer that their work speaks for itself. There is a phenomenon that women and 50s are also more likely to develop an imposter syndrome, feeling that they don't belong, and especially because the higher up they go in the corporate ladder, the less females they encounter. So research also shows that women list less skills on their profile and will only apply for positions when they are confident that they are experts in 85% of the skills or requirements listed, while men will apply for the same position when they feel that they know enough about 40% of the skills listed. Another set of research indicates that when looking at performance appraisals, the history of large corporates, women are constantly rated with less promotion potential than their male counterparts, even if their current performance is higher than their male counterparts. So how do we do it right? So we encourage more women to enter the field. We encourage women to not only apply for supportive roles, but participate and lead. And we encourage women to stay in the field, become trailblazers, and give back to the field. According to World Economic Forum again, and especially two wonderful female leaders, Kay Firth Butterfield and Bina Amnanath, there are 5 ways to increase women working in artificial intelligence. The one is supporting STEM education. The next is showcasing female AI trailblazers. The next is mentoring women for leadership roles, especially, and creating equal opportunities, and then ensuring a gender equal reward system as is absolutely necessary as well. So global organizations like OpenAI are doing great work to help women play key role in the AI sector, but these efforts need to be bolstered to make tangible difference at scale. It is mainly based on this advice that Women in AI started identifying and encouraging women in AI trailblazers, and Kay Firth Butterfield is one of them. So just shortly, I started my career in the 90s as a COBOL programmer on the IBM mainframe. In the mid-90s, I pivoted to SAS programming, data warehousing, data mining, never looked back. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Simon, you can start now.
All right, thank you everyone for having me here. Sorry that I couldn't be in Pakistan to share this with you. So today, I'm going to just give you an idea on what we are doing in my tech centers. I run what we call the NVIDIA AI Technology Centers, and I'm also at the same time adjunct professors in a couple of universities. So without much ado, what I'm going to do is jump into the presentation very quickly. So one of the things is that, as you guys know, that the climate change is driving extreme weather. We have a lot of changes because of the climate change. We have storms, fires, and so forth. The extreme change has become more frequent. One of the challenges that we see is that it's just not that it's extreme, but it's getting more and more. And we'll see that the means of it is now that it has shifted towards the right-hand side. The cost of it is that it's going to cost billions of dollars, especially in the US, and of course in the rest of the world, places like Pakistan, South Asia, China, and whatsoever. It has similar effect. And it's going to cost all the nation a lot of money. Now, the thing is that in 2025, the effect is going to be worse. Low precipitation, decrease in snow, heat increases, sea levels going to rise. And what is it is that it's going to have less fresh water. You're going to have likelihood of cyanobacteria. And then there is a lot of effects on what is going to caused by the rising heat effect. Now, what are we going to do about this? Now, this is going to be a challenge because one of the things is that there'll be more mosquito, especially in my part of the world, in Singapore, which is tropical. I believe that it's also going to happen in places like in Pakistan and in many other places. There'll be more mosquito, and with more mosquito, basically there'll be more disease. And also there is examples of that, like for example, like in Egypt, where hundreds of stung by scorpion after a daily flood in the area, and basically because of the climate change. Now, what are we going to do about it? So we're going to look at where the early part of the Apollo program. As you would know, the Apollo programs were to send men to the moon and then send them back. Now, one of the things that you guys may be familiar with was with Apollo 13. Apollo 13 was sent to the moon, and in the middle of it, there was an explosion. And in this explosion itself, it causes mayhem to the crew, because now the mission have to change from sending them to the moon, become rescuing them back to Earth. The challenging thing is that the missions already on the way to the moon, and now they have to find a way of bringing them back. So one of the things is that they have the space machine wasn't designed to actually to do this rescue mission. So they have to find a way of doing that. One of the things was that they have, luckily for them, they have analog twins, twins of the digital of the spacecraft. So this spacecraft, basically, they have a replication of it on the planet Earth. And in this replication, they can do all the sort of simulation, and for example, like how to power down and how to restart the engines and so forth. Guys, you guys may have already seen the movie on Apollo 13. They have all the engineers will gather together and find astronauts gather together to find a solution for them to actually bring the thing back. So these are the examples of a digital twins, of very good examples on how digital twins is able to save the Apollo 13. So what we want to do is to do the same things for planet Earth, is to build a simulator, a digital twins for the planet Earth, so that we can actually simulate it and then save and see how what's effect and able to save it. However, in doing that, it requires a lot of work to be done because at the moment right now, what we are doing is at 1 kilometer's resolution is a current supercomputer. If we want to reduce it to 100 meters resolution, we need to bring it to 1,000. And if we want to bring it to a 1 meter resolution, we need a supercomputers of about 1 million times more complex. The complexity comes from simulating the environment. Basically, the climate models is set of Navier-Stokes equation. And all these Navier-Stokes equation is pretty complex. Well, one of the ways is to find a surrogate models. And these surrogate models basically is either we use some form of mathematical complex reduced order, which is at the moment right now, many of the scientists are working on, or we use some form of AI techniques to actually develop the surrogate model. So look, when we look at the art of the start of the AI, we can see many of you are familiar with the stable diffusion conceptualized. Things like stable diffusion, and then of course, NVIDIA has created something called the instant nerve, where we can actually take a 2D photo and formulate a 3D photograph in a very short time. So there are technology that is available. On top of that, many of you will have heard about ChatGPT, basically based on a transformer method. And over the last couple of years, there was a lot of work. A lot of work, and you could see that there is a whole vanilla of of the transformer models that's been born. The ChatGPT actually brings it to life because now many of us can actually interface with it, the layman's and whatsoever. And there are very other competing models, things like Google Lambda, Palms, and so forth. The ChatGPT is not just instruction. As you could see over here, you can actually use a natural language to actually write a computer programs. And this has been used in things like the Copilot, in things. So what we can do right now is to able to create algorithms or programs very, very efficiently. Now, back to the things is that remember the physics that we have learned over 100 of years cannot go to waste. So what we want to do is to actually put all these physics together. And fortunately for us, it was that in 1990, there was a theorem that allowed us to actually approximate using physics-informed, that put into the physics-informed neural networks that allow us to create these new algorithms. So one of them was a physics-informed neural network. The whole idea is to embed the neural networks together with a physics equations, and that trains the neural networks that allows the neural networks to mimic what's the physics that we have learned before. That in this case, what NVIDIA wants to do is to put all these things together. It's called the Omniverse. And the Omniverse is basically a platform that allows all the different components from simulation to human trainings, to factory plannings, to factory CADs, all these things, all the different tools to actually connect to one another. And with that, we actually form what we call the digital twins.
High-resolution weather simulations, as provided by DKRZ's ICON code and vast amounts of observational data, allows us to determine the state of the Earth with unprecedented fidelity. But exploring and working with this data can be a challenge. Technologies like the NVIDIA Omniverse ParaView connector allows scientists to interactively analyze weather and climate data in 3D, to combine information from multiple sources, and to explore what-if scenarios. This takes us ever closer to a realistic, interactive digital twin of the Earth. Let's look at two examples. In August 2019, Hurricane Dorian developed into a massive Category 5 hurricane, causing over $5 billion in damage in the Bahamas and the southeastern US, with sustained winds of 185 miles per hour. Viewing high-resolution simulations like these integrated forecasting systems simulations in Omniverse allows scientists to analyze the behavior of storms such as this in detail, interactively, and in full 3D. This not only aids in understanding the physics of weather systems, but also allows inaccuracies in models to be identified and refined.
So with that, I thank you very much. Thank you.